Okay, now in this video we are going to create a simple database application with PHP. So for example, you're having a birthday party and you want to invite your friends, but instead of using a third-party invitation application, why not build your own? It just takes 5 minutes or a little bit more maybe. Let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to scroll down, go to databases. Here you find databases and click on the MySQL database wizard. I'm going to click there. So it's going to create a database and you have to name your database. What do you want to name it? It's up to you. So let's name it party database. Okay, so we want to invite friends to our party and we want to have a guest list. Okay, so next step, now create a database user. So I'm gonna name it the same, party. So the username will be code_party. So it's your cPanel username underscore and then the username you define here. Okay, so password, it's good to use the password generator, but as is this just for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna make it really simple. Okay, I'm gonna make it like this one. So it's actually party123. So I'm gonna create user and remember the password you have created. Okay, so here is my password, party123. I have my user code party, my database code or C0D3 party. Now we want to give all privileges to the user to access the database. So click the all privileges and hit next step. That's it. So we have created our database. Okay, so let's return home. Now we are going to launch our database administration application, which is called PHP MyAdmin. Here, if you scroll to databases, you see PHP MyAdmin. Click on there. It will launch to a PHP MyAdmin database. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so the left side here is our database which we just created. So code party, right? I'm going to click there so to access the database. So it's empty, nothing is there, no tables. We have to create our first table. Okay, let's name the table guests. Okay, number of columns probably 2. I want the guest number and the guest full name. All right, so I'm gonna hit go. So now we just have to name each column. Okay, the first is ID for numbering the guest, and the second column is guest name, like that. Okay, and the type, this is integer, which is for numbers, and this one I want to change this to a character. So you can choose var_char, which is a character, not numbers. So how long will the character be? Like an average full name for a person, probably no longer than 50 characters, right? So I'm just gonna name it, just to give it a bit space. Maybe somebody has a really long name, 70 characters max. So once that's done, I'm going to scroll to the right there. Okay, so here is the number of the guest number. I'm going to click there and make that a primary key. So once that's done, I'm going to just hit save button there. So now we have a guest table, right? a guest table has just been created, but it's still empty. Okay, let's create our invitation form, or maybe a guest form. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my cPanel here, scroll up. I'm gonna go to my file manager again, file manager, and hit go. I'm gonna go inside my PHP folder. Now you don't have to create it inside the PHP folder. You can put it anywhere in your file manager, as long as it ends with .php, like our previous video explained, right? So I'm gonna create a new file now. New file. I'm gonna name it party.php. Make it simple, okay? So I'm gonna create a new file. There we go, party.php. Now it's still blank. Now we're going to write some code to actually put the invitation up, okay? So code editor, click on there and hit edit. Okay, everything is blank. So let's start building it. I'm gonna make a form, like a form on a paper, using the form tag, and close it here. Always close the tag, right? Pretty simple. Now, where would the form go when somebody actually fill out the form? So the form should go to this file, right? Party.php, which is this file. So I'm gonna put the action of the form is party.php, which is this file. Alright, so the method of the form is a post. So it's like a postal mail. We have a post method in the form. So it's pretty simple, right? So action, party.php, method, post. So now we want to put the field, which is the guest name, right? We want to put guest name. Please fill in the guest name. Now we want to put an input tag after the guest name. So if I save this, let me show it to you, and I go to my code in website, code in PHP party.php. There you see guest name, but blank, nothing there, right? So I'm gonna go back to my code editor here and put an input tag, input, so someone can input their name and name the input field guest name. Okay, so we have to label the input bucket, so to speak, and I'm gonna label it guest name. So what's the type of the input bucket? It's just a text, right? Somebody to fill in their name. That's it. Look at that. I'm gonna save that, and now we are going to see how it looks like over here. Aha, now I can put my name. See, that's pretty simple. But whoa, how do you submit? There is no submit button, so it's still blank. Now let's put the submit button in there. Pretty simple, just one more line of code. Input, the type is, you guessed it, submit. The value or the label, right? Whatever you want to label the button with. So for example, I will come to the party. So input type submit, value, I will come to the party. Save the changes. So I'm gonna go back here, reload. Aha, I will come to the party, but it's on the right. Let's put it below the guest name. So to do that, I'm just gonna use a break tag, which is to put a new line. It's called the break tag. So BR and then this. So save that. Let's see how it looks now. Okay, better, right? So guest name, I will come to the party. All right. So that's good. Let's go back here. So far we have created just the form. Now, what if the form is submitted? We have to process the data, right? Somebody filled in their name, so they want to come to the party. So we want to keep that name, so we know who's coming, right? So let's do that. Let's keep the data. So I'm gonna put another tag, and we're gonna start coding in PHP here. So PHP and close it here. All right. So now, first we want to get this name and put it into a variable. So for example, somebody filled in their name like John Doe, right? So we want to get the John Doe into a variable, put it in a plastic bag or a bucket, so to speak. So let's put it in a bucket, this John Doe, right? So let's go back to our code manager or file manager. This is the variable. How you declare a variable is you start with a $sign. Okay, a $sign means this is a variable or a bucket, so to speak. So $sign guest name, okay, equals get the data from here. So how you do that in PHP is you use the post variable, which is post here. As you can see, it's post. So post guest name. So how do you get this guest name? This must be equal to the name of the input tag there. Guest name, right? So if I change that to GName, for example, this has to be changed to GName. Otherwise, it won't work. You can keep this whatever you want, right? Or you can even change this to whatever. It should be okay as long as this variable is being used later on. Okay, so let's just make it guest name. So this is GName, so you see the difference, okay? And this is guest name, okay? So we get the guest name inside there. So now, what do we do? We want to put the guest name, right, into our table here. Table guests. And if I click there, I want to put it, it's still empty. I want to put this inside the guest name here, okay? So let's go to W3 School to check it out. How to do that exactly. So I'm going to click on PHP here. And I'm going to scroll down. PHP database. So that's what we want to do. So we want to connect first, connect to our database, right? So let's go. So we have an example code here. So I'm just going to use this and copy that and put it in my file and my code editor. Put it there. Okay. So this is the connection string to connect to our database. So this should always be local host, as your database servers reside on the same server as your web server. So it's the same thing. You just put localhost there, and then here is the user of the database. For me, it's code, you remember, party. So this is the what? Database username. The database password is party123. This is the database password. Okay, so server localhost, database user, database password, and database name. The database name is the same as the user, as we said before, code party. Okay, so if something's wrong, it's gonna print out fail to connect to MySQL, and it's gonna give out the error. That's what this line of code is doing, right? If it's errored out. So let's go ahead, go back to W3 school. Now we are connected to the database server. Now I want to insert a data, right? Let's go PHP insert into. Pretty simple, right? Example, that's what we want. So we already have this particular part copied. So I'm just going to copy this part. Okay? Copy this part and put it in the code again. But I have to adjust some stuff. Okay? So we have the con variable, which is this one. This has to be the same. It has to match con, and this is con connection. Okay, insert into Pearson's. Now this is wrong. We don't have any Pearson's table. We have our table name is called table guests. See here on the left, table guests. So let's change that to guests. Okay, so this is the column name, right? We have a column name. I'm going to change that to ID, right? Comma, guest name. Which one? If I go back here, ID and guest name, okay? The ID number and the guest name. But we don't want to keep having to keep inserting the number. Let's just do that automatically. Now to do that, I'm going to click here and make this automatically increased every time a new record is being inserted. Okay, so I'm going to change that. I'm going to click the change button for ID. I'm going to scroll to the right, and AI stands for auto increment. Auto increment. I'm going to check that box, save it. So now it's going to auto increment the data there automatically. Okay, now with that being implemented, if I go back to my code editor here, I don't have to put the ID anymore because it's going to put it automatically for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until a billion and so forth, right? Now the values, we just need to put the guest name, which is the guest name variable. So how do I get this? This is the same as this, right? Guest name, guest name. So let's like simulate the whole thing. It's pretty simple. If I go to here, I put John Doe, right? So if I go back to my code, so John Doe gets insert in this G name. This is filled with John Doe, right? So once it's posted, so it's gonna John Doe going to go to guest name, right? John Doe will go to guest name variable. So now guest name, this will be John Doe, right? That's pretty simple. So I have to close the quote here. For this quote, for this particular quote here, double quote, we have to close that in the back. Don't forget that, otherwise it'll error out. So once that's done, we need to close the connection as instructed here. Okay, copy that. I'm gonna close the connection, so it's not gonna lie open for the server to process. So now it's done. I am going to save the changes. Okay. Now let's do some party invitation. So if I go back here, let's check. This is still empty, right? If I browse, nothing is here. Return an empty result set. Now let's put some name. John Doe wants to come to the party. I'm gonna click there. But wait, before we do that, right? We have to, oops, we have a syntax error as well on 22. Let's check that. If I go back and go here, line number 22, it says we don't have a semicolon, probably because this is like that, right? Insert into guests, guest name, value, guest name. That's good. But once it's inserted, right, we want to put a thank you page or thank you note, right? Like print guest name, you're on the guest list now. Okay, so once John Doe is entered their name, his name, this is going to be printed out, so he knows everything is good. He's on the list now. So guest name, John Doe, you're on the guest list now. Okay, I'm going to save changes, go here, probably reload the whole thing. Oops. Okay, let's see. Syntax error, unexpected semicolon, and line 21. Let's see what's wrong there. Oh, we haven't closed it. We need to close the query, which is this part, right? So this is closing that part. See, it's not closed properly. So I'm going to save the changes here and reload. Oh, that's not good. So only if somebody fills in there, then we're going to print that. Okay, so let's change that as well. Put an if statement here. If there is a guest name, print that. If there is no guest name, you don't have to print that. Pretty simple and straightforward, right? If there is a guest name, then print this. Otherwise, just leave it blank. Let's reload. Aha! John Doe wants to come to the party. I will come to the party. John Doe, you're on the guest list now. Let's check that. Is John Doe on the guest list now? Oh, he is. And we have some blanks there because when we are trying out, it's just giving out blanks. So I'm going to delete those two. But John Doe is on the list. What if I want to put Jimmy now? Jimmy Tanzil is on the list. I want to come to Jimmy Tanzil. You're on the guest list now. Alright. So if I refresh here, I go browse again. There we go. My name, John Doe and Jimmy Tanzil. So that's it. Pretty simple, right? So you just go to your W3 school. Go to the database section here. Now you have created your database on cPanel. So now you can start manipulating data, creating maybe sign up forms, creating invitation forms, anything, any forms you want to create to save data into your own table. You can do that. Teachers, you can create tables for your homework submission, assignment submission, anything you can imagine, it's possible. So that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching and have fun.